Hello and welcome. My name is Mansoor and I'm a subject matter expert for ELT with Macmillan Education. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about virtual classroom, what its advantages are and what its challenges are for teachers. We are passing through a very difficult time and technology can allow us to continue with the learning and teaching, um, to continue with engaging and involving students while they are at home. This can be done through technology, by connecting with students online, and in doing so, there are certain challenges and there are certain advantages that we have. So, today we look at some of the advantages and some of the challenges. The first thing that I want to talk about is how virtual classrooms allow for a very personalized learning. In a conventional classroom, you have all your students in front of you as a large group. So, even if you want to give individual personalized attention to every individual learner, that becomes almost impossible in a larger group. Whereas, when you are connected with your students online, it is possible to individually give focus to them, to understand their strengths and weaknesses, to understand what they require in order to progress, what kind of remedials, what kind of feedback, what they are good at, what they are weak at. It's possible to do that for every individual student, which is a very big advantage of virtual classrooms. The other thing that a teacher can do when he or she is teaching children online is that there is a lot of flexibility for deciding when to teach and how to teach. So you can have different timings in a day for small groups of students, or you can set, maybe fix one time of the day where everybody has to log in and be online and be connected. Similarly, it's also possible for you to decide whether you want to teach a particular topic individually to students, or you want them to work in pairs or in small groups um, through online tools. So that kind of flexibility is available. Communication gets fostered, gets boosted when you're connected with students online, because there is a lot of interaction, there is a lot of exchange that must happen for learning to be effective when you are teaching students online. So in order to avoid a lot of passivity on the part of the students, you automatically resort to communication, and there is a lot of exchange, especially spoken exchange among students, which is an advantage of virtual classrooms. You also have access to a very wide range of materials. So, for example, you have a book that you are using with your students, and you have digital material related to that book. But that is not all. You have practically the entire web world at your disposal, and there is a lot of very good material for language learning available online for free, and this material is available grade wise, it is available skills wise. So there's a lot of audio visual textual material available online. There is a much greater visualization when children learn online, because they don't have to limit themselves to the printed book. They have interactive material, they have games, activities, they have a lot of audio visual material that they can use. So there is much greater visual learning that happens. Virtual classrooms also um, create responsible learners, because when children are learning as individuals, they also realize that there is a lot of responsibility upon themselves when it comes to taking their learning forward. When children are in a conventional classroom, sometimes some children have the tendency to kind of hide behind larger groups. So that is not really possible to do when they are learning online. So these are some of the advantages of virtual classrooms. And now let's look at some of the challenges that teachers can face when teaching children online. One is that of teacher control. Obviously, you don't have all your students right in front of you as a large group physically present, and you might feel a certain amount of anxiety about whether children are really taking their work seriously, whether they are really learning, whether they are doing what they have to do, if they are making the best use of the time that is available, etc. Varied personal spaces. Now, because children are learning in their own personal spaces, they might tend to be a little too relaxed. Uh, they might not take the learning as seriously as they would when they are in school and when they are in the classroom. So this is something that needs to be addressed, and teachers have to make sure that children understand that they might be in their own personal spaces, but they are still learning, and it's serious and it's important, and it has to be done in a disciplined way. Well, since we are going to be dependent on technology when we are teaching children online, there are often difficulties that arise, glitches, technical glitches, and such problems, but then that's something that one has to deal with and tackle as and when these problems arise. The contact with children is impersonal, yes, because you're connected with them online. So this means that teachers have to find ways of increasing interactivity and exchange with students so that they feel that they are connected with you as much as they are connected when they are in a classroom. The lack of non-verbal communication is another thing that teachers have to deal with. Now, when your students are present in front of you physically in the classroom, there's a lot of non-verbal communication that happens through body language, through gestures, through facial expressions, and other things. Now, this is more or less absent when you are connected with your students online. So a lot of focus has to be given on individual learners as to what are they trying to communicate even when they're not saying something. So maybe there's a lot more of questioning that needs to be done by the teacher just to be sure that their children are learning, or they are telling you what they need to tell you. And keeping learners engaged can be a challenge, again, because they are not in front of you the way they are in the classroom, and at the same time the textbook will not really work. So the kind of material that you bring for children, the kind of activities that you have, those things become really, really important to keep children engaged when you are teaching them online. Now, just to wrap it up, what we can call best practices for virtual teaching and learning, it's a good idea to fix a time for your learners during the day, just as they have periods set during the day when they are in school. So that can inculcate a sense of discipline and seriousness about learning, and this can foster learning. The second is, yes, keeping learners engaged through various ways. There is a need for a lot of creativity on the part of the teacher, and creativity in terms of the kind of materials that are presented for learning to the students. Turn texts into fun activities, yes, because when you are connected online, you have a lot of options of using interactivities, games, audio, visual, and other tools. So make use of them as much as possible. Do not restrict your children to the school textbook that they have. Beware of death by PowerPoint. This is connected directly to the third point, number 3 above. Teachers cannot rely on or depend on students just reading texts. Everything has to be activity based, where children are actively doing something and they are engaged audio visually. Otherwise, it can lead to boredom and a lot of demotivation, and it can lead to a lot of passiveness on the part of students, which is really negative, and it can harm learning, especially in virtual environments. Always set very clear learning outcomes and targets, just as you do in your conventional classrooms. so that by the end of every session, by the end of every week, you know where your children are and whether they are learning, whether your learning, whether your outcomes, the targets that you had set for yourself as a teacher are met or not. And lastly, follow a lesson plan. It's always a good idea. Um, I'll stop here for the day and we'll meet again hopefully soon. All the best exploring virtual learning and teaching.